If you are thinking about buying a home with a well, or you may already live on a property with one, stick around. I'm going to be covering the common types of well construction, well water safety, and most importantly, how to maintain your well. Now, perhaps you've always lived in the city with a public water supply system and have taken tap water for granted. Now you are moving to the country or a home located on a lakeshore where you have your own private water source. Now, before I forget, at the end of this video is a link to where you can download the PDF for your well owner's handbook. So stick around, it's at the end of the video. All right, so let's get to it. I'm a bit of a bookworm, so I did research several different sources. So the data I've put together in this video mostly comes from the National Groundwater Association, the Minnesota Department of Health, and it is based on the rules in chapters 47, 25, the Well Code, which was adopted in 1974. Please note that some counties have taken matters into their own hands and have established their own delegated well programs and even more strict rules than the state. So you want to know where your well is and follow the local ordinance because it's probably going to be more strict than the state. So in general, a properly constructed well can last for a very long time, and quite frankly, with minimal effort or annual cost on your part. The most important factor in your well's construction, though, will be the well's location in the state. This will determine well depth, type of construction, and the natural well quality. For example, right here in the Twin Cities metro area, the wells typically draw water from sandstone and limestone rock formations. Other places in the state pull from rocks such as granite. Overall though, thanks to those glaciers, the quality of Minnesota groundwater is very good, and many of the bacteria, viruses, and chemical contaminations are naturally removed as the water moves through the silt, sand, and gravel deposits. Actually, if a well is properly constructed and maintained, groundwater from a well is usually safe to drink without any treatment at all. So where does the water come from? Well, water from the surface rains down, seeps into the ground, and settles in the saturation zone known as an aquifer. Now, the top of this zone is called the water table, which is a term I'm sure you've heard before, and you will hear it again in my septic system video. Anyway, an aquifer is a layer of sediment, either sand or gravel, or a layer of rock, such as sandstone, that stores and transmits the water up into your well. In simple terms, a well is a hole in the ground held open by a casing that extends into the aquifer. Wells in the state of Minnesota can range anywhere between 15 feet and over 1,000. Now, the depth of the hole really depends on the groundwater quality, the depth to get to the aquifer, and the geological conditions of the well site. Types of wells. There are a few different types of wells, but the most common type of well constructed in Minnesota today consists of a 4 to 6 inch diameter plastic or steel pipe, which extends a minimum of 12 inches above the ground to hundreds of feet into the aquifer. The casing must be watertight, properly vented, insect-proof, waterproof, and on the newer wells, there is a unique well number strapped to the outside. Now, this unique well number may also be attached to a concrete pedestal or base at ground level, but in real practice, I have never seen one of these. I've only seen the metal band type label. Check out this picture of a recently constructed well in Minnesota. You also may come across a well called a drive point well. In practice, I typically hear it called a sand point well, but they also might refer to it as a well point. Now, a drive point well is a shallow well, less than 50 feet deep, and it's more susceptible to surface contaminants. A drive point well uses a pointed screen on the end of a series of coupled lengths of steel, and it's driven into the well water table, which is pretty shallow in most cases. Some people use a sandpoint well for just agricultural purposes, say watering a garden, but it can be used as your main water source. You just want to make sure you test for all the same water contaminants and observe the minimum setbacks for contamination, so sewage and chemicals, so you're not leaking into your groundwater source. A few other types of wells you may run across, depending on where you're looking at properties, will be a bored well or a dug well. These are also shallow wells and very susceptible to surface contaminants. The historical techniques of a dug well and a bored well are no longer allowed for the Minnesota code. So if you run across these wells, they're probably not legal anymore. Interesting enough, you can construct your own well without a license as long as it's in accordance with the well code and the proper notification has been filed with the state. However, most people will hire a licensed well contractor to construct their wells. As with any construction project, make sure you get a bid from multiple contractors to make sure you are getting a fair price. Right now, after interviewing a few homeowners and calling a few well contractors, the costs are ranging between $8,000 and $12,000, depending on the type of well built, the amount setback from your house, and a few other conditions. But just know that a well is less than a septic system to install, but they range, so it's really going to depend where you are in the state. How do you determine a well location? Well, if you have the luxury of selecting the site for your well, make sure you observe the isolation distances. These are also known as setbacks. These setbacks, or minimum distances from notable points in your property or on your property, are established by the Minnesota Well Code to prevent unnecessary contamination. If you are purchasing a property, make sure you review the seller's location map for the site disclosure of the well. If you have a vulnerable well, one of those less than 50 feet of watertight casing type wells, you need to double the setbacks set forth in the well code. For example, if a normal drilled well requires a 50-foot isolation distance to the septic holding tank, you need a 100-foot isolation distance for a sandpoint well. Check out this setback diagram with the required setbacks from the well code. This was last updated August 4th, 2008. Again, you should review the location map from the real estate listing to help you find the well on the property. Another way you can find a well, though, is using the Minnesota Well Index online lookup. You either enter the property address or the unique well number if you have it to do the search. If you currently own an acreage, fun challenge is to see if you can locate your own well on this website. I did it for my own well, and it's pretty interesting because I was able to find the well depth, date installed, the owner at the time of the install, the company that installed it, and the aquifer that it's being sourced from. Pretty cool. Check out this screenshot. How does a well work? Well, in addition to the electrical and the control devices, a well system consists of 3 main components. Now, there will be variations with your well, and even more complicated systems than I'm describing here, such as a geothermal system, but this will get you started when you're out there looking at properties. Now, the 2 components outside will be the pump, which is deep in the ground, and the pitless adapter or unit located inside the pump near the top of the casing. Unfortunately, both of these items, even though on the outside, you will not be able to see because they are inside the wellhead that you can see. Now, inside, there is a pressure tank. Let's go check that out. All right, we're inside the house, and if you're out home shopping and you notice one of these big blue babies, that's your pressure tank. I don't know why they're blue. Most every single pressure tank I've seen is blue. If you know, comment in the section below. It's just the way I've noticed they're blue. Anyway, a typical pressure tank is located in the same room as your mechanicals. Oftentimes in your basement. It doesn't have to be in your basement, but usually it is near the other mechanicals. And a typical pressure tank will hold between 20 and 44 gallons. Okay, so for the most part, this well system will operate all by itself with no effort from you. But as the components age, you do need to monitor them because you may need to repair or replace components of your well system. All right, moving on to well water safety. After a well is constructed, Minnesota law requires the water be tested for coliform bacteria, nitrate, and arsenic. This is the only time Minnesota requires arsenic to be tested for. Now, interesting enough, Minnesota does not require the testing of private wells at the time of property transfer. However, as I mentioned earlier, some counties and cities have stricter rules, and you need to know where your well is located. For example, Dakota County requires coliform bacteria, nitrates, and manganese be tested within 1 year of a property transfer. Additionally, many lending institutions will require testing, typically for coliform bacteria and nitrate, as a minimum condition for approving a loan for the purchase of property. If bacteria is found during the testing, the homeowner may choose to disinfect the well with a chlorine solution, more commonly known as shocking a well. It will usually eliminate the bacteria or viruses that have entered either during construction or repair of the well. However, it will not provide a permanent solution if the contamination is caused by a faulty well construction or a failing septic system or a flooding of a surface water. So if there is some other ongoing problem, you need to address this. Shocking a well will not permanently solve one of those ongoing problems. Now, when you are out shopping for acreages or you are a new homeowner, you may notice a few things about the water that you won't see in the city. You may see some rusty orange rings in the toilets or the bathtubs, which are caused by iron in the water. You may notice the water may smell like a rotten egg, or you might see white residue on your faucets, black buildup, or a metallic taste to the water. Although these aesthetic contaminants are not typically harmful in small doses, many homeowners will choose to install a private water treatment system. These treatment systems do improve your water quality. And quick tip, when you are out touring properties, take note of the type of water treatment system that the property has, if any. You will want to understand if it's rented or owned and what the maintenance is required for that system. Water treatment systems can be very expensive and include reverse osmosis, activated carbon filters, distillation, iron filters, water softeners, oxidization filters, or iron filters. Please know before you buy, it's a good thing to know what kind of water treatment you're getting into so you don't have a surprise for a costly bill later. Finally, let's get on to well maintenance. Great news, modern wells are very easy and very hands-off for the most part. Now, although there are a few things you can do to protect your well, let's go through those now. First of all, protect your wellhead from damage and maintain the proper setbacks, even when building a new structure or adding onto your home. When landscaping, make sure your wellhead is at least 12 inches above the ground and slope the soil away from the wellhead and keep all vegetation with deep roots clear from that area. Have any defective parts repaired by a licensed well contractor or pump installer. If you notice low water pressure, your pump may be getting to the end of its life. The average lifespan of a pump is about 15 years. Also, remember to keep harmful chemicals away from it, such as fertilizers or motor oil. Take steps to prevent back siphonage, which occurs when the drop of pressure causes potentially hazardous chemicals back into your plumbing system. For example, be careful when connecting a hose to a faucet. Don't leave the end of the hose and in the laundry tub, chemical tank, or some other place where the chemical can be sucked back into your system. Now, remember to note any changes in your water. The quality of groundwater is actually a very fluid, ever-changing system. So depending on the amount of rain received and the years past, the water quality can actually change, which is why it is recommended at a minimum to test for coliform bacteria yearly and nitrates every 3 years. The National Groundwater Association recommends at a minimum wells be tested or evaluated annually by a licensed or certified well or well systems professional. But I can be guilty. I honestly haven't done this or been very good at following these recommendations. But I'm telling you, that's what the code and that's what the Minnesota State recommends. Finally, and most importantly, keep records on any well installation, testing, maintenance performed, as it will make your life so much easier when it comes to selling the property. All right, well, that's a wrap. If you have any questions or would like to reach me directly, please email, call, or text. Of course, my name again is Kayla Schluter with RE/MAX Results and the Locker Home Group. I'm a Twin Cities real estate agent. Look for my updates and YouTube uploads weekly. I hope this video was helpful to you as a homeowner or soon to be acreage owner. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for listening.